But
I'm sure you'll memorize the changes.
that was
quickly, too.
13 years ago.
What are you trying to say?
Give an overview.
No,
While we,
I'm just, I'll go, I'll read it.
do I have a red line copy? Maybe not working. Well,
When I was working, that's what I did for a living. And I was constantly going to communities and pointing out stuff that they,
Okay, if we could bring the meeting to order, please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. Here.
Rebecca Anderson.
here,
John Colfax.
Here.
Anthony Gorski.
Here.
Joe Keith.
Here.
And Larry Forzaneski.
Here. All right, Stan Keys asked to be excused. All right, so we're kind of a special meeting tonight. It's more of a work session, I guess you could call it. We don't have any regular agenda items, but we have a lot of things to discuss, and I thought it would be a good way to get ahead of the game a little bit, because I think we get ourselves backed up, and then we talk about these things at end of meetings, and this way we can get into it a little more thoroughly, although I don't want to talk about anything too long. Let's look at the minutes from the last meeting of January 19th, 2022. Hopefully you had a chance to look them over. Beth got a baptism by fire because that was a tough meeting to take minutes for.
it was a long one.
Yeah, it was.
But any additions or deletions, comments?
I have one thing. We're on the site plan review for project 2129, the proposed shop and storage located on Genesee Street. Ed, you've questioned if there are any wells on the property. We're talking about gas wells.
Gas wells.
And we should specify gas wells, because the DEC regulates gas and oil, but if it was a water well, we wouldn't care. And so I'd like it just insert the word gas well. Thank you.
Okay, anything else? We have a motion to accept.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, second.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Communications list. Rather short list this time. Beth, if you could add this document that Town Attorney Fowler just gave us on municipal home rule law. There was a change in the amendment to the code. When we go through the minutes, I can give you a copy so you can take a look at it. I did send that email to Cheektowaga. Tried to consolidate comments from the members that contributed. He did thank me for the comments and said he would get it to the developer and to the town board, I believe. Okay, if nothing further. I have a list of items. Some of these I don't really expect any discussion. It's more reporting. I want to just keep moving, and because I have a bunch of items. But first thing, remember we talked about the concept plan and putting something into the code. Well, my final decision on this is to do nothing. I've given a lot of thought, I did quite a bit of research, and I think it's fine the way it is. I don't think it's a problem. If someone comes to the building department with a concept plan, the building department can then just say there is no provision for a concept plan. They can call me, the chair or the chair of the planning board, and then that person can make the determination whether that petitioner should appear before the planning board. Down the road, if we think it's a problem, then we can address it again. Next thing, Theo's place. Lisa from the attorney's office said this is something we might think about talking about. I think their approval has lapsed, if I'm not mistaken, and is there any will of the planning board to extend that approval? Matt, do you know where we stand on that one? The one next to Depew High School?
Yes, they made a request, I believe it was in November, for extension.
Oh, they did make a request.
They did.
Oh.
They did. There were still some outstanding issues that needed to be addressed. One of the biggest was combining of all the parcels. It was still 5 little individual lots. And unfortunately, the stormwater agreement that was filed was only filed on one lot as opposed to the entire project. So once they got that organized, I think they were ready to present back to the board. My understanding is that the extension is at the town board level, but if the planning board, proposes to recommend the extension, that shouldn't be that big of a problem. There's really no change in the project itself.
Oh, I thought they would have to come back to us first.
Well, I could pull that verbiage up into the, from
That's fine, but that's something to look at, I think, but, so the ball's in their court anyway, right? They have to take care of some things, and,
my understanding, yes.
yeah.
It's
Okay.
interesting, right now, it's a snow dumping lot. I don't know who's dumping the snow, but there's tons of snow from, high lifts and things going in there. I don't know.
I wonder if that's going to cause a water problem later on for
Yeah,
somebody
plus
nearby.
it's all street snow, what's that gonna do, environmentally, I don't know.
Yeah.
Nothing.
No?
I mean, it's mixed with salt, but
Yeah,
it'll kill vegetation, but it's gonna take it out anyway.
yeah.
Right, as you know, Rebecca Anderson's been working on the ERPODs, which is our, correct me if I'm wrong, Environmental Resource Protection Overlay District. We have an update on?
Yeah,
Where we
thank you. The only part that we did not have a map for were the wooded areas. So, ERPODs are stream corridors, steep slopes, floodplains, which we have a new local law, and wooded areas. So I took a map that Ed gave me that he'd taken everything off except for the subdivisions, and I marked it up. So essentially, it's going to have areas identified that are currently wooded or going from brush to woods. And Ed said he can make a copy of this and get everybody a copy. Take a look at it, and then once everybody says, yeah, it's okay, then it can be adopted. The thing about wooded areas is that it can't be perfect. ERPODs are not perfect. So when you get to an area that someone wants to develop, then you go to the definitions. Where's the edge? They're going to say, where exactly is the edge of this ERPOD? And we're going to go to the definitions and say it's 25 feet from the drip edge. So same with the stream corridors and other things we can identify. They've already been identified on the resources map, and that's been adopted. So this was the last piece. So if you remember last time, I pulled it out and said I wanted a cleaner copy and clean it up a little bit. And you'll be happy to know I'm a good thing I did, because I had missed Stutzman's. Stutzman's is the wooded area Stutzman's is now identified. What? I'm presenting to you this, thank you. And everybody should get a chance. I did it with a grease pencil. It isn't perfect. It is very workable, however.
Also, I make a copy of her markup, just mail it out to all of you. look at it, and then if it's something you want to adopt, then I can formally draw it up so that it can be adopted.
Okay, sounds good.
So thanks.
All right, thank you. All right, Anderson's, Ed Schiller, you had a meeting with them, or
Well, not with them, no.
Michael Anthony?
Yeah, this comes from the concern, we had people approach the town board with concerns regarding specifically Michael Anthony, getting on and off Transit Road, getting onto Transit Road more than anything else. And one of the residents there, and I forget her name, but she had been pretty active. She had reached out to everybody from the town board up to the governor. And got some reaction. DOT is looking at some things right now. I'm in correspondence with them. In the meantime, I took a map of the area, north and south of Michael Anthony, and just kind of drew up a concept of cutting off driveways and creating a parallel access way along the back of some of the properties. So Value Center property, Tim Hortons, Anderson's, crossing over Michael Anthony over to Park Lane Apartments, and then continuing on south, eventually getting all the way to Coles. We sent out letters to all the property owners. We had a meeting. Park Lane showed up. Some residents from Michael Anthony, the owners of the Value Center showed up. Nobody else showed up, which is fine at this point, but everybody was, kind of in favor of what it looked like, even the guys from Value, which I was a little surprised. I figured the commercial guys are going to be the guys pushing back, but they understood the issue. And hopefully most of the businesses would see it as a benefit to their business, people trying to get out of there, not so much in but out, going south on transit. So at this point, I guess we'll try to reach out to some of the businesses that didn't show up, the biggest one being Tim Hortons.
Tim Hortons?
Yeah, because the concept would be to shut off their driveway to transit and give, and give them access off Michael Anthony in the backside. Like I said, the issue the town has is that they can't force the issue on the property owners, because unless the property owner's in here for an amendment, then okay, now there's an action you can take, you can make something happen. So I've reached out to DOT again, Mike Roche at DOT, and waiting for a call back, because they were doing some updated counts. I had a conversation with him initially about, because the push was they wanted a light at Michael Anthony, and as I expected, DOT said, you're not going to get a light, you can't satisfy what's called a warrant analysis. There's just not enough traffic at Michael Anthony. But Mike Roach did say that if we were able to concentrate all the traffic, from all those parcels to Michael Anthony, that changes the numbers dramatically. And that would be something they would look at much more favorably. So you end up with a light at Delta Sonic, a light at Michael Anthony, and then the next light north would be William, basically. So how it affects Anderson's is that they are in here for discussion on site plan. They weren't at the meeting, they were invited. But, you can certainly have a discussion with them and be a little bit firm about, hey, look, we're talking about access across the back of your property. You guys have to have a discussion with us as part of this site plan review.
So how does this happen if the landowners,
Don't agree.
financially, how does it happen?
Well, it's not an easy process. I mean, if it moves ahead and eventually all the businesses say, yeah, we're interested, you got cross easements, the guys from Value, they have tenants. People that own the plaza have Value as a tenant, and Burt Bikes, I think, is a tenant. Their leases are pretty restrictive. You can't allow access to a competitor, blah, blah, blah. But if you look at what's in there, you got medical, you got the coffee shop, you got Value. I don't see any competitors, next to each other in there. The concept even showed a change to Cole's driveway to be a right-in, right-out only, forcing everybody to go to the light at Delta Sonic if they were going to go south on transit. because that connection's already, they built that as part of Delta Sonic. And then the other, that was my comment on the Valvoline project, was, hey, we want you to keep a strip in the back there so we can make a through connection here. So it's a working process, but I bring it up because the Andersons are still in discussion. And, I mean, we can at least force them to have a conversation with us.
Where did we leave Anderson's though? Didn't we vote on Anderson's?
They did provide some supplemental information on their plan to make some adjustments and present the finished product back to the board.
Yeah, so it's in their court.
So we tabled it.
We tabled it.
Yeah, it was okay.
So I mean, I can draft a letter to them, additional comment letter from, review perspective saying, we've done additional review and this is being looked at and, we need to have a conversation. If the board is in favor of that.
I don't think I would want to recommend approval until some of the stuff is taken care of.
Like I said, well, for them, because they are in here, I mean, you do have a little leverage, but everybody else, value seems to be in favor.
If I can also recommend, the Valvoline project is still.
That's in here.
Consideration as well, so I mean, not so much that the Coles occupancy puts the bill of that adjustment to the entrance.
No, but we asked for a strip across the back of Abilene for that same reason.
Right, but the entrance on Transit Road, converting it to a right in and a right out only, I mean, that could be a part of that project. Again, the whole reason of the access management consideration is when new projects are coming along and even redevelopments of projects that come in front of this board in an effort to reduce those driveways on that highway. So, I mean, I don't think it's that tall of an order to ask that those entrances be adjusted, because you do have projects that are reliant on the approval, and this is one way to become in alignment with the zoning.
Yeah, I've got, later on, if anybody's interested, I've got the plan that we were talking about here, so you can, you can look at it, ask some questions.
You're saying, today I went through the car wash, and rather than go out from the car wash, which is, it's a terrible in and out, and there's a million accidents there all the time. Twin District is always going out. I went around into Kohl's and came out there because they weren't open yet, and the parking lot was empty, and it was going through. And it's real convoluted, but you're talking about straightening some of these connections up, or?
Well, that connection, it would exist, I mean, I wouldn't be.
That would exist, I mean, it wouldn't change.
But going north, that's what I did, is I looked at what's available, and to be honest with you, most of it's already paved, because there's already back strips along behind a lot of those properties, it's already paved.
Yeah.
It's a matter of striping and straightening out, and then a lot of it's going to end up being legal to get easements and everything else you need.
Sure, okay.
And then there's some trade-off, because Park Lane was very much in favor of cutting off their driveway, they would go behind Tim Hortons to come out to Michael Anthony. They were fine with that. So then you've got a section of Park Lane's driveway that they don't need anymore.
Right.
So, do you give that, so that's part of the discussion. Do you give some of that to Tim Hortons and say, hey, it could be a little bit light, there's a lot of different discussions that have to take place.
I remember when the oil change place next to Value to the north side came in, and Value absolutely refused to have a connection.
We had that discussion.
They've seen the light?
No, there's a couple things. There's a drainage ditch that runs between them.
Okay,
So, to alleviate having to build a culvert or a small bridge or something, everything from that property, what is it, Manco now, I think, Manco Auto Repair or something. From that property north, there is already a back connection all the way up through Flicks, coming out to William.
Yeah, going to the movie theater.
Comes out by Rachel's or Orville's up in that area. So, like eliminating the driveway at Verizon. I mean, they have a driveway into their store, and then right next to them is the driveway that goes in to the medical plaza. It also has a driveway into Verizon.
got it.
Okay,
No.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
If, you know, I was at the meeting myself and Bob, there, if the number of traffic, volume, you know, that all these places generate is not good enough for all light and Michael Anthony, and we try to do this, and it comes back that, sorry, but your warrant is still not good enough,
Right.
we try to go, you know, forward with this, those people on Michael Anthony will not be happy. I'm saying that because now we're directing everything to their entrance.
Right, you know, I mean,
Devil's advocate here.
Yeah, but is there a way, I guess the answer to Dave is there a way to get that answer from the DOT prior to
yeah,
getting too deep into the project?
the town would have to do a study of looking at counts to all those businesses and determining what the volume would be. And then, yeah, having the conversation with DOT saying, hey, if it's this, are you guys gonna go ahead? You know,
They have made concerns about the drive-through too at that access management meeting we had, you know, their concerns.
but this isn't something that's gonna be resolved, you know, in 60 days. It's, you know, this is a process.
I would imagine they already have the totals, just by taking all of the businesses that exist now that exit. And then they could just kind of assume that that total will be the one, right?
And the DOT doesn't take counts of the ins and outs.
Oh, they don't have a,
They'll take the counts on transit,
yeah,
and that's it.
okay.
So that's why I need to, I mean, that's why I'm attempting to sit down with Mike Roche from DOT again, because they did counts last year, based on the letter from the resident and Michael Anthony. They went back out and we're doing new counts last month, I believe, or a month before. So I would expect results of that probably later this month, maybe March. But in the meantime, I'm still trying to have a sit down with DOT just to pick their brain and see what else they require.
I'm not trying to discourage the drive-through at Anderson, you know, that's up to you guys, the site plan, whatever happens. But, because there's already there's an ingress off of Michael Anthony in the back.
Into Anderson, it already exists.
It already exists.
Yeah.
But I think they're concerned if we put that through, it's just gonna be one after another, after another, after another. I mean, you know.
yeah, that's how I feel too.
It's custard, that's not coffee.
All right, more on Transit Road, the Transit Road rezone. I found out today that the town board would like us to rule on the site plan before they rule on the rezone and the site plan. Isn't that correct, Dave?
That's correct.
Yeah.
I'm talking to everybody on the board. I haven't talked to Mr. Rufino, but I talked to Adam, I talked to Bob, I talked to Jeff Malone, I told him today.
All right.
And I thought it was one of the conditions that was on your site, because the site plan really wasn't ever okay last.
No, I thought legally we had to go to the town board to accept the rezone, then we do site plan. So I was trying to go through the process, but I don't know if there's any legal mandate that says we have to do that.
Most of the board said that they don't want to put the site plan, or they don't want to put the region until they actually see,
Yeah.
because so many things can change, you know.
I think it's a
At
good
the site
idea.
plan level, before we put a rezone.
Right, and it's always tough to do a rezone because you don't have enough information about the site plan, and
Yeah, that's
it's,
that's what everybody's concerned about the board is.
and I wanted to get back to the last meeting, we did the seeker, and Tony brought up that, and I think he was correct, that we kind of went through the seeker under the impression that they were going to close that north driveway. So I don't know if you got a chance to look at the comment we made, but under consistency with community plans, we had no impact. Our comment was the proposed action does align with the adopted comprehensive plan for redevelopment of areas to promote growth of retail, other mixed uses, and higher densities. Then I slightly changed the last sentence. I said, it is hopeful the transit road access management plan will be improved by this action, because we don't know for sure if it will be or not. And, you know, maybe we would have had a different outcome to seeker if we knew that ahead of time.
I personally think that, I mean, typically when you do a rezone, there's supposed to be some sort of benefit to the town, right?
Yes.
If they're not willing to change that driveway any, what benefit is it to the town, and why should we be rezoning that parcel? It's my opinion.
Well, I think Rebecca mentioned the last time that there was some benefit to the town in other ways, but I think if this is the way we're going to go, when they come back for site plan, if we all agree with that, we should deny a site plan or recommend disapproval of site plan. Goes back to the town board, they do not recommend rezone. The rezone doesn't even go through.
I mean, I do think, I mean, Neil, you just gave me this plan, but I think there is some possibilities here. One of the reasons I didn't like it was because it's 3 stories tall, it's 90 degrees to transit, and I felt bad for this guy in the back that's all of a sudden losing his visibility in my mind. Everybody's not coming to this site traveling north on Transit Road, like Palumbo said. You know, yeah, north from Transit Road, the visibility is not changing much, but coming from the north going south, it certainly does block this parcel more than that restaurant did.
Was there, in the correspondence, a letter that was put up, the guy that owned the strip mall behind it? Who gets,
There was a recent letter.
he just said, has substantial concerns.
I just got something today, too. And
The drawings you sent me, like the little renderings, were making it look like it's a beautiful plaza behind them. And, you know, if you go back there, he doesn't put the dollar in that, Matt and I talked about it, I don't know if we should respond. He hasn't put a dollar in that back strip plaza. I mean, you know, part of the facade's falling down on the Trenton roadside, and it's beat up, and it's, but the drawings that he sent to the town board, you know, oh, this is a beautiful plaza back there. No, he really didn't want to work on it.
see, I think they would be in agreement if they rotated the building, but Jeff Palumbo says, I just got this today at 4 o'clock. As we indicated in the meeting, we have serious issues with the proposed alternate plan. However, we agreed to take another look at the proposal. However, we disagree vehemently with Mr. Knopf's description of the proposed building as massive, and disagree even more vehemently that it obscures the view of the adjacent shopping plaza in any significant way. So I think they're still willing to take a look at it, but I don't think they're willing to do what.
Then you know what we tell Mr. Palumbo? Pay your architect to do a rendering, take some shots from across the street with the restaurant there, and then with your building there, and see if it blocks any more than what it does now.
Yeah, you can do a visual.
There certainly is the means to do that. You could do it very easily with Google Maps and Photoshop, and leave the restaurant there and show the new building. A 3-story building is going to be a lot, with the sloped roof, is going to be a lot taller than that restaurant is. A lot taller.
But it meets the design standards in that zoning district.
I understand, but it needs a rezone.
Well,
In the new,
even in the current zoning district, you could still have a 35-foot tall building.
Yeah, because we went down a zone and we.
The building height doesn't change.
That's allowed.
But with the use he wants, it needs a rezone,
Correct.
right?
Right.
So you're demolishing the existing building and you're rezoning to build something new.
But based on what you're saying, Matt, he technically could have done a 3-story building under the old zone for something else.
right,
Whatever the permitted uses were allowed in
Yeah.
the district.
Yeah,
He could have built a new restaurant.
Exactly.
yeah. He could build a 3-story restaurant, and that would have been okay, and we would have had no recourse. That's a good point.
I like the mixed use. I mean, I like the fact that it's going from a restaurant to mixed use, but I'm not sold on this rezone, we can also just
Yeah,
deny
I
the whole
was-
thing. We can deny a rezone with no repercussions.
We already passed it though.
We
I
already,
know. Well, we did, but they haven't.
Yeah, but so based on what they're asking us to do now, we would have to deny site plan, and then it would go back to the town board, and then it would be up to them.
I think he's got a problem with the bank there with the exiting from the drive-through in the bank. It exits right into the back parking lot of that building.
Yeah.
And if I'm a tenant and I have a space, I come down from my apartment and I'm backing out into exiting traffic from a bank drive-through, I'm not gonna be happy living there.
Based on the revised sketch that the tenant did, I'm not seeing the bank. It's removed from this.
Tony, you were gonna need it too. like
It's
you
removed
said.
from the site, what I
If
can
you put a
tell.
bank there, it's gonna block some more of this, of the view too, of that black patch.
Yeah, I'm not seeing the bank there unless it's bigger.
No, they don't show another building, they just, I don't know, I don't remember what that appendage is, but obviously that appendage is behind the property line.
Right. I think
Whoever did this just took the footprint from the other one,
Yeah,
slapped it on.
it rotated it. But took the bank out.
Without the bank, yeah.
All right, we certainly don't have to make a decision right now, but I expect they'll be coming back based on what I learned today, and probably pretty soon for site plan. And, we'll have to go through this discussion again.
Do they have this, the Palumbo? Do you know?
Yeah, I think he
Okay.
got it,
All
and
right.
I think that's why his letter
Right.
reflected that.
We have in the past approved, we as a board, have approved site, or rezones before, and made it perfectly clear that we're okay with the rezone, but the site plan as presented was not going to work. So this is not the first time if we reject the site plan. So if they start making squawky noises, oh well. We're not bound to the site plan one bit.
And I think the town board doesn't wanna act on it unless they see a concrete site plan.
Well, we haven't really gotten into it deeply either.
Yeah, they don't wanna act on a rezone until, they don't wanna have their hands tied and say, oh, you gave me permission to build, this new use, but we don't know what else.
I get it. We were kind of in the same position. And I think you're probably doing the right thing. Okay. We'll keep moving then. We got a dollar store coming up on Broadway. Is that correct, Matt?
Yeah, proposed retail facility on a vacant parcel,
Where is it?
at the
Pavement?
former nursery location.
Yeah, west of the deli.
So across from Frank's, but closer to the
Oh.
village.
Nursery deli,
Where Desideria's used to be?
correct.
No. No, before that.
West
That's a different
western side deli.
Towards the village more.
It'll be west of
So
Boulder Road.
the deli's going,
That's the, they're down.
No, there's an open lot next to the deli.
oh, next to the deli?
Yeah, west side of the deli.
Anything we should know about that?
It's, it's a boilerplate footprint of their finished product on the site. It's got some pretty interesting design to it to meet all the standards.
And everything's okay in terms of the...
They'll need variances.
Well, I was gonna say, I remember they tried to come in a couple of years ago.
Right.
On Town Line Road. And we denied that. It was just too
Too tight.
and, will this be big enough and,
Well, as I said, they need several variances,
okay.
Area variances.
area variances, correct?
I just want to, one more time, mention to the town attorney's office, glad the town attorney's here, and Emily, I had mentioned that Peppermint Road easement one time. If we could take a look at that,
Okay.
keep that in your... And I don't know if this is a legal issue or not, but I alluded to it last meeting that Windsor Ridge South came in basically saying, well, we're going to have a new plan. And I don't think they can do that legally. We have a positive declaration on the table, and I think they have to address that with an EIS,
Yeah.
correct? And
They can do a new plan, but they still have to go through a whole new secret review, including
Exactly.
NEIS.
Yeah, they were asking to have the pos deck reversed back to the neg deck, that's what they were asking.
No,
Yeah.
it's not gonna work.
yeah. I just don't want
Well,
them to-
they could abandon the project and come in with something different, but it's just not, you're not going to reverse the negative deck, or the positive
I
deck.
mean, just because you made a change, it's not a new project. I don't see it that way.
No,
All right, so I guess that's all we need to know there. Purchase of development rights. I discussed this with Supervisor Rufino recently. Joe and Councilman Mazer went to Clarence a while back and met with the Clarence Planning Department regarding their green print program. Rebecca Anderson and I went into in July and discussed this program at a work session with the town board, and I really haven't heard much back since July. I reached out to Councilman Dickman too, and he said he'd get back to me, but he hasn't as of yet. Hopefully he will soon. I guess what I'm saying is I think that it's time to get this going if we're going to do it, and if not, then we'll just drop it. I think one way we could get going is there's a forestry grant that's available right now, and it might be a good way to purchase that Balducci land next to Westwood Park. I don't know if it would qualify under the forestry grant criteria, but it's worth a try. So we have reached out to the, what do you call it, the grant writers, and they know about it. So hopefully something will come of that, but I think that would be a great way to get started with a program. We don't always have to purchase development rights. You can use recreation fees to outright buy property, grants, and then the purchase of development rights. It is expensive, but I think it's something that would be a great program to help limit development until the infrastructure catches up with development.
What did Ron have to say about it? I mean, you know,
He seemed, I know back a long time ago, he didn't like the idea of the town purchasing land. He didn't like that idea, but he seemed to more, he especially liked the idea of the land next to Westwood there. And I haven't talked to Mary Jo in a while. Hopefully she hasn't sold it to some developer. You know.
I know we've talked about it, and some people on the board are tough with money, so.
It's a tough decision because,
Yeah, I completely understand, you know, it's,
but I think it might be money well spent in the long term.
even if we can tie it to the forestry grant or even the recreation grant, you know, some kind of park and recreation grant.
We've had some properties just in the last couple of years that if we had had this in place, it would have been a no-brainer, in my opinion. Which brings me to, I'm going to jump around a little bit, but Stutzman and Seabird and Brunk, I think we did get an update on Stutzman and Seabird last meeting, but what about Brunk Road? I haven't, they had that big, have you heard anything about that, Matt?
No, not recently.
And how about Belmont on Harris Hill there? Did they come back with anything?
I believe that is still active. Communications, I believe, were a little over a month ago with the applicant. and then putting together the application for the PUD, Plan Unit Development.
Yeah. I also discussed with Supervisor Rufino the need for a town planner. Many towns have not only town planners, but they have a planning department. Again, nobody wants to spend any money, but you know, I think you maybe could start out slow, hire somebody part-time that could do some of the things that that we do, that Matt does, maybe become a liaison between the building department. I don't know, there's a lot of things a town planner could do. And then maybe if it works, gradually it could become a full-time position. You know, it was mentioned to me that we should delegate some of our work to our planning board staff.
She's laughing.
Yeah.
That's not the same as hiring somebody that's trained in planning
Right.
and schooled in planning.
Correct.
They're totally different animal.
But
No offense to anybody on this board.
Right, right,
No.
right,
It's totally different.
right.
There are people who are planning consultants, so your idea of part-time, it doesn't have to be a town employee necessarily either. Another option would be to work through a consultant.
Good point.
So,
It is an available option right now.
yeah, it is, if there's money for it,
I believe the code is written that it could be
up to a certain,
used at the developer's expense.
All right, that's something to look into.
because when we get into Windsor itself and we're starting the new environmental impact statement, they pay for our consultant. So that's already cut and dried, but to have a professional planner or whoever else we need, there are options. Because sometimes I'm thinking maybe the town board might balk at creating a new position, and then you've got a position. So, as opposed to a part-time consultant. Go ahead, I'm done.
Okay. As members, I'm sure you know now that the Towns meeting has been canceled. If you need training hours, you still can go to newyorktowns.org. There'll be a virtual conference. newyorktowns.org. John, you are aware that we need 4 hours per year?
Yes.
Okay. The dead-end streets, Division Street, Bradley, I think, Matt, you alluded to the dead ends, and there should be a dedicated, what did you call it? At the end of the dead ends, we need to... Proper termination, thank you. Yeah. Now, is that something that you think that we need to put into our code? Is that what you're saying?
Well, there are some standards that are already outlined in the subdivision portion of the code for projects. And we do have a town standard on how to treat dead-end streets. You know, the existing streets, I mean, the highway department, whether or not they have to invest in some, blockades, some signage, create a turnaround area within the right-of-way. I think that's going to be a little bit difficult, but at least having the signage and the blockade in place, just to meet what our already adopted standard is. So there aren't a lot, but they're out there.
And there's a standard for a T turnaround.
The T turnaround, right. But even for a dead-end termination, there is the barricade requirement.
Well, yeah, actually, in that same standard, there's the barricade and the signage.
You're talking like a Jersey barrier or
No, it's a guide rail.
Physical post and beam structure.
okay, black and white? I mean,
It's a guide rail with a sign, I forget what the sign says, it's either dead end or no outlet or something like that.
Dead-end, no parking.
So at this time, is there anything this board should be doing to make this
Not too
better?
much work, perhaps considering some verbiage in the code that has a standard for any work at that dead end and/or clean up some of the definitions of what what an improved lot or a buildable lot is with respect to road frontage. You know, it is very vague. It just, the Schedule B only gives a lineal dimension of road frontage.
So it needs to be fine-tuned,
I
this,
think it could be fine-tuned, certainly.
I looked again at the variances for the car wash. John, there's a car wash that came in from Central and Walden, so right on the edge of the village, the town starts. And here's the actual percentages. 7 variances they requested: 6%, 80%, 60%, 55%, 50%, 85%, and 11%. They tabled it. I don't know when the ZBA is meeting again, but we'll have to stay tuned on that one. Matt, thanks for sharing your spreadsheet. I haven't had a chance to look at it. It's funny, because the other day I was thinking, I gotta make a spreadsheet for myself, just like Matt has. And I started to do it, and I didn't get anywhere. But
I tried to get one updated to everybody at the beginning of the year, just for your own maintenance and just so you can remember where everything is at, because I have a hard time remembering it also. You know, Building and Zoning Department does have the responsibility of charting these projects. It used to be on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and here now it's on an Excel spreadsheet that's easily shared.
yeah.
So if there's any recommendations that you'd like to see changes on that formatting, whatever it is, I'm open to any and all suggestions. And honestly, our building department software program has a module available specifically for planning, site plan review projects to help track all of those items and store electronic documents and things of that nature. You know, track approvals, dates, deadlines. I haven't really investigated it too in-depth because of the expense, but it's an option.
All right.
We're a planner.
That's where a planner can help. The planner will use that software to help, you know, kind of consolidate all of the data into one place. And the advantage there is that it will be interchangeable with the existing software for permitting purposes. It can help with, you know, the conditions and, you know, other private improvement permit requirements, as-built, all sorts of things.
Ed, you might know this one. Is any update on the county working on William Street?
No, I've not heard anything back since they had the public meeting. I can reach out to Gina and ask. I mean, their schedule was, that wasn't gonna get into design until this summer. So
So we're looking at,
there's 2023 construction.
okay.
Yeah, at the earliest.
And the state DOT on Transit Road, that's also 2023, or?
I believe there's the arrow or the throughway to French, I believe is it 2023? Yes, 2023. I've been following the comments regarding the project in Cheektowaga across the street from the school with DOT.
Yeah.
And they're coordinating, obviously, that project has a lot of work on Transit Road, putting in right turn lanes. They're proposing a signal at the school driveway to coordinate, so the school's got access to a light. They're trying to coordinate that with work going.
They're already doing that? They
Yes.
are? Because I mentioned that in that.
Yeah, that wasn't originally in there, but it's come back that the main driveway will be opposite the school with a traffic light, with a right turn lane as you're heading south on Transit to move over and get into the plaza. There's already a left turn lane coming north, the center, they would just restripe it at the light. And then the only other access is going to be off of whatever the street is there across Clover. And then there's future connection to McDonald's, that they're leaving that there for a future connection.
Okay, Matt, do you have anything else?
Just can I make a comment?
Sure.
We have, the town board has, I think we got a letter today from engineer from the county, passing a resolution about sidewalks.
We did? Oh, okay.
We got it today.
Okay.
They say that in order for them to pass the project at the DOT level, we have to pass a resolution here acknowledging that we will accept ownership of the sidewalks once the state and the county build everything. And if I recall, the questions going back and forth had to do with can we force, not necessarily ownership, but responsibility onto the homeowners. And the state's not taking any position on that. They don't care as long as the town code covers that. So they're trying to get a resolution on strictly to say, yes, we will accept ownership if in fact you build them.
Okay, I think our code,
That's just come out today.
Yeah, that's today.
Yeah, yeah. Anything else? I'm done with my,
I don't know, not to steal any thunder, but from the attorney's office regarding the floodplain legislation that's being presented at this point, I know you just did it out moments ago. So primarily, it was in response to the two letters, the map changes for the Juniper Boulevard townhouses. The DEC made the recommendation to update the current law, which was just updated in 2019. The verbiage is very similar. In this document, the compensatory storage clause remains, but we've added two others. One is a critical facilities definition and requirement, and then a repetitive loss clause, which allows the town to move towards purchase of a property that has exceeded a monetary limitation based on the loss claims for that property. So we have the document. I did forward a copy of the red line to you tonight, and not even thinking, I probably should have forwarded a copy to this board, and I'll do that momentarily, just so that you can see what those changes are, and probably hopefully decipher it in the next few days. But we have some shot clock deadlines to have the legislation adopted. The next one is going to be in either late February, early March, to get a draft to the DEC for comment before we can actually put it out for a public hearing and viewing and then formal adoption. So there's still a little time. Yes?
Is this the final version, or is this?
That would be the draft version that goes to the DEC.
Why does it have a scientific and engineering report on a flood insurance study on Hidalgo County?
That's a great question.
You know, I looked at it's 182.3.2. It's the basis of establishing areas of special flood hazards. So you're referencing your map numbers and your LOMAR.
3.2.
Yeah, it's section 3.2. And under number 2, I really don't
You're that far into it already? Outstanding.
I can skim
speed reader.
I can skim this thing like you won't believe, because this is the document that I worked with for 35 years.
Wonderful.
So this, I used to go through this local law. I used to be able to spell out the definition of development so fast that your eyes would blur.
Very good.
So anyway, I just caught that, because the most important part in FEMA's eyes is, do you have section 3.2 correct? They'll throw out the whole thing if you didn't adopt your maps, because this tells you what to do with the map, but the map is like, and the flood maps are also what we use for identifying our ERPOD major and minor stream corridors. Because if it's got a detailed flood insurance study, it's major. And if it's minor, it might not have that. So you gotta have this right.
Excellent catch. So
That's as far as I got.
you're able to give it a once over, we can have those discussions and have these corrections done prior to the DEC submittal. More eyes on it, the better. That's my opinion. And that'll lead me to my final thought here. There have been some minor adjustments that need to be made to the existing zoning code. Because it took so long from its initial drafting, when we got chapter 50 and the E codes updated it to the 400 chapter, some of the verbiage somehow came over wholesale from our old code, which makes it irrelevant. And we've been compiling a list of these small nuances. There's slight little changes. A lot of them were typographical, others were some omission errors. And I understand there was a little bit of a change in the draft document. from outside counsel before it went to E-codes. So I'm trying to just in my own mind figure out a way where we can have a combination of all these little tweaks of the zoning code that we just adopted and then correct them. Another one ironically was found today in the off-street parking, which again referenced the shopping center district from our old zoning map. And we never had a shopping center district, but there's reference to shopping center, and it gives a formula on how to tabulate the amount of parking spaces required. There's no other reference to it, so I really believe that needs to be removed. You know, it gives design professionals a little bit of a, it throws them in the wrong direction. And it's a little bit embarrassing to tell them our code is wrong. We'll have to correct that, but this is how you need to calculate parking. But they're just small little nuances.
So that might be a legal question. I don't know. Do you need a public hearing to make these changes? And
Public hearing is definitely warranted to do code changes. So I think once we have, I've been communicating with.
Is the problem that the final version got botched when it went to E-code? So our final version, E-code just screwed it up.
No, the final version that was sent to E-code did not have all of the red line changes.
Okay.
And it was, the schedules are a little bit off, and, again, they just need a little bit of fine tuning. So prior to getting it for public view and comment, I'd like to get it back in front of this board. I know we spent a lot of time on that thing. Just to identify what the issues are and what the corrective measures are going to be.
okay. Anybody else have any comments?
Did you get the email from the committee, the comprehensive plan committee? When there was a change in, expressed interest in changes in dates? I don't know if anybody on the board here was on that committee.
Implementation.
Yeah.
Right?
Krista McCracken was on it. So we don't have anybody on it right now.
There's new dates. I can forward you the email and if you want to have maybe a discussion at the next meeting.
Okay.
If somebody wants to volunteer to be on that implementation committee.
Do you have any details about it? I'm not familiar.
I can send you the email.
Please, yeah.
I'll forward it if you want.
Perfect.
And, Matt, what's going on with the Harris Hill Worley Parliament? Isn't it, there, rezone hearing, I think it's coming up?
Right. We should have it here.
Yeah, I think,
Well-
Lisa would work on it or not.
Yeah, I had told Jeff Palumbo that you guys would put it on for February, whatever, the second meeting in February, but Lisa got back to me and said that it's going to be March 7th. So I sent Jeff Palumbo a note saying that it will be scheduled for March 7th. Now, having said that, I was just being the messenger. I don't know if you guys have, you need to set the public hearing,
Yeah.
the town board.
Yeah,
Okay, so,
I had mailed something, emailed Lisa about that, so.
okay, maybe that's how she got the,
She
that,
can
that-
move back some,
okay.
so. For the apartments,
I think because in February, there's not 2 weeks between the town board meetings is what throws it out a week, throws it out a meeting.
Yeah, could be. All right, anything else? Anybody? No? Okay, I'd like to adjourn the meeting in memory of John Pascarella, who was our recreation director for 23 years. He was a teacher in Orchard Park, I believe. Great guy, quite the character. He was on the chain crew for the Buffalo Bills during the glory years, and he did that for, I don't know, 30, 35 years, something like that. Great guy, quite the character. But I worked with him on the Recreation Commission for 11 years. So I got to know him pretty well for a while there. So I'll move to adjourn in his memory. Can I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Neil, you want this back for your file?
Yeah, you want this letter?
I have one.
You have one?
You have one?
Yeah, so if you guys,
I think it's in good hands.
Oh, yeah.
I never go to anything in that call.
Neil, did I ever give you a certificate of completion for
Had
that?
to run into, house or something.
The thing is,
Yeah, basic,
That's what Dave was just saying.
something to that, basic planning
He
board.
said it, David was
Examiner of that as well.
saying he has.
I mean, personally, yeah, selfishly, I love it.
All right, because
I
I'm
will
thinking,
come out because of the.
just now, because you mentioned about